Ladies and gentlemen, live from headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, it's 100 yards of football with Vincent Turner. Ladies and gentlemen, history is best qualified to reward all research as Mr. Football Vincent Turner takes us down history lane as we travel to 1944-45 with the Army Black Knights here on 100 yards of football.
The 1944-1945 Army Black Knights. And when I think about this football team, they went 18-0 in 2 years. And it's only one thing to think about: the Army Black Knights, U.S. military. You think about the generals, Dwight Eisenhower, Douglas MacArthur, George Marshall, George S. Patton, Omar Bradley, all the great people that was surrounding that time. And we know we're talking about World War II, but they were still playing football on the ground. And then when you think about this football team, you always got to think about the country. Oh, say, can we see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight last gleam? And boy, what a football team. And you think about Army, you think about the head coach, Red Blank. But most of all, you think about the backfield. And the backfield had two outstanding football players. Not only there was outstanding football players, but it was great, man, what they did after their careers. Mr. Inside and Mr. Outside. Glenn Davis and Doc Blanchard. But let's talk about the football team. 1944, they went 9-0. Outscored opponents 504-35. And the 1944 team was part of a 32-game undefeated streak. And then they came back in 1945 and went 9-0. Shut out 5 of 9 opponents. Beat number 2 Notre Dame 48-0 that year, and number 6 Penn 61-0. And you're talking about dominance. They outscored their opponents 412-46. But it was 2 young men that made sure Army stayed at top. We're going to talk about the 1945 Heisman Trophy winner, and his name was Doc Blanchard. What a football player back then. Started his career actually in North Carolina, then transferred over to Army. 38 career touchdowns, 1,900 yards rushing in his career. He scored 114 points in 1945, and I just mentioned he won the Heisman. But his skill set, you're talking about a guy that was very, very tough between the tackles. That was Doc Blanchard. A man of iron, A+. A warrior, as I just mentioned, between the tackles, A+. Inside runner, A+. Cuts off blocks, A+. And he had that FBI football intelligence. But what I liked about Doc Blanchard is what not he did on the football field. Won 2 national championships, part of the 32-game winning streak. It's what he did after all. He turned down playing in the National Football League. He was the 3rd overall selection in the first round of the 1946 NFL draft. Mr. Blanchard said, no, I have other things to do. He joined the Air Force and became a fighter pilot in 1959. And flew an F-100 Super Sabre, a fighter jet. And he had a mission that happened in 1959 when he was over in London, England, where his Super Sabre F-100 plane caught on fire. He stayed with the plane and instead of allowing the plane to crash, it was going to crash over there in a remote area in London, which would kill 10,000 people probably. He stayed in that plane and guided it and won a Medal of Honor. This is Doc Blanchard, man. Heisman Trophy winner, 1945. And this is what I take from him. He got a medal academically at the Army. Then I just mentioned to you, he joined the Air Force. He won the Heisman in 1945. But the greatest thing that I liked about him, he flew in the Vietnam War. And he had 113 missions. And 84 was in North Vietnam. And he retired as a colonel in 1971. And while the Vietnam War is so dear to my heart, I lost an uncle in 1985, Robert Turner, who was very close to me. Very close. He was in the Vietnam War and died of Agent Orange. So I understand the plight and the seriousness of the Vietnam War. And Doc Blanchard flew 113 missions. And 84 was in North Vietnam. Man, doing these videos has just been a blessing and outstanding over the last few months. I didn't even know this about Mr. Blanchard. Well, he was special. Not only on the football field, but what he done afterwards. Now let's talk about his counterpart, Mr. Outside, Clem Davis. Athlete, man. Ended his Army career, 59 touchdowns, 5,161 yards, all-purpose yards. 354 points in his career. As I just mentioned, won the 1946 Heisman Trophy. The skill set was just outstanding. A natural able to run by A+, explosiveness A+. Much heard on radio. At the time, they didn't have a lot of TV back in, A+. As I said, athletic, A+, vision, A+, elusiveness, A+. He retired as Army's all-time leading rusher with 2,900 yards. But this is what I liked about Mr. Davis. He had to be one of the greatest athletes, not only in Army football history, but in college football history. 10 letters. Varsity letters. He earned 4 in football, 3 in baseball, 2 in track and field, and 1 in basketball. He ran a 6'1", 60-yard dash after he left Army and graduated and beat Barney Earl, who would go on and win a silver medal in the 1968 Olympics in London, England. He was an athlete. I mentioned that he acquired a letter in baseball. He played center field. At the time, he was a 100-yard dash man, 9'7". He ran a 220 and 20.9, which was at the time Olympic type skills. Then he went on graduated. Then he went in the National Football League and played for the LA Rams and became part of a football team that right now in the 1950s, early 50s, really saved the National Football League. They had Bob Waterfield and quarterback Norm Van Brocklin, Elroy Clazy, Legs Hurst, Dick Horner, and the legend Tank Younger. He was part of that offense. But most of all, what I like he done is when he went back to his hometown, right there in Southern California, and he did a lot of things in the community, from a community service standpoint, an educational standpoint, and an athletic standpoint. He came a real stay in that community out there in LA. Probably one of the greatest athletes that ever played college football. And when you look at the Army football history, the thing that sticks out to my mind most of all is that from a sports standpoint, this football team here kind of saved America. Because think about this. America was in a war, man. World War II. And Glenn Davis and Doc Blanchard became stars. because they gave America something to look forward to. And they had this football team at another level. And they was on a 32-game winning streak. Outstanding, man. Glenn Davis and Doc Blanchard. One guy from the South Carolina, went to high school in Mississippi. Mr. Blanchard, as I told you, some in the water in Mississippi. James Earl Jones, Morgan Freeman, Jimmy Buffett, Elvis Presley, I don't have to mention no more. Then you had another guy, Glenn Davis from California, South Central, the city of Compton, Stars, Marilyn Monroe, John Wayne, James Russell. And these two young men during the 40s saved college football. And their careers, after their military commitment to the U.S. military service, provided something that they really, really loved this country, especially Mr. Doc Blanchard. Outstanding, man. Outstanding. Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it. And the only way I can say this to end this video today is that when you look at Army football, you got to think of special during the 40s. All-Americans, William Smith, 1900. Paul Bunker, 1901. Red Cadgel, 1927. Harry Wilson, 1926. Frank Murph, 1942. 1943. Pete Dawkins, 1958. Bob Anderson, 1957. Townsend Clark, 1966. Don Smith, 1985. And Mike Merriweather, 1990. All-Americans. And then the greatest All-Americans of them all. Every time you mention college football about the U.S. military, it's always two words going to be brought up. Mr. Inside, Doc Blanchard. Mr. Outside, Glenn Davis. To my producer, Mr. Logan Landers, thank you for making it happen today. And all I can say is, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, we so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming. If you like the video today, please come in and share it. I'm Vincent Turner of 100 Yards Football. One more time, special thanks to my man, Mr. Logan Landers, and the gentleman who introduced me today, Mr. Mark Bass. Thank you, and God bless.